Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. We'll be getting started shortly here. Just need to make a couple minor adjustments. Now on your page here, you should be seeing the dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get there from the virtualpbx.com website. Just mouse over support, and you should a menu should pull down, and you should be able to select the dash login, and that will take you here. Now, in order to log in, we do need your email address, your password, which should have been emailed to you, and then your account name, which is typically your company name. If you forgot your password, or for some reason you don't have the email with your password, you can click on the Forgot Your Info link here to the bottom right. The screen will flip over, and you can see we'll need your email address still, and then we need either the company name, right, the account name, or a phone number that's on the account. You'll click on Reset Password. You'll get an email, and in that email will be a link to get you in to change your password. Once you've changed your password, the system will log you back out and force you to log in with that new password. And once you've done that, I recommend for most people just to click on Remember Me, just to save you the hassle of trying to remember yet another password. Bear in mind, you can't use chat on YouTube here to ask questions as I go through this. I will try to keep an eye out for that. Alright, so we're logged in, and this is a well-established account. I've been in here several times. It's a test account that's been in existence for about 5 years. Now, if it's your first time logging into your Dash account, you actually are not taken here. You're taken up to your account page right here, and the Dash wizard will pop up and give you highlights of different things. Mainly, this is where you would change your personal user's information, right? So your login for your email address, your password. You could change your time zone. Now, because I'm an admin, I also have over here on the left under settings, I have an account level setting. And that's where I could change the account name if I needed to. But the main thing that people change here is the time zone for the entire account, right? Their default time zone. Now, on your accounts, you also have an additional section under where it says user for billing information. You have things like the contact, right? So you can update the main billing contact information there. You can update your credit card information. You can see your plan information. You can also see your invoices. Now, when you're done here, you just click close over here to the top right, and that will bring you back to our dashboard page. Now, along the top, again, you can always click on your name to get back to that account page. You've got the little help icon here, right, little question mark. Then you have chat with us. That will open up a chat window to speak with our support team. Down here, you've got learn more. This will open up a new tab and take you to the support pages for Dash. The web phone link, this only shows up after you've added a web phone to your user, and basically will show up the next time you log in. But this will take you to webphone.virtualpbx.net, so you can use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. And then the online store takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order a VoIP phone, for example. Over here, the 3 horizontal line icon or hamburger icon, menu icon. So right now we're on the dashboard, and then these are other features of Dash. Some of them, like ACD queues, have an additional fee associated with them. Others are either plan specific, or like faxes here are included in every plan. And then lastly, we have the little logout icon. On the left, we have other features of Dash. These are more core features of Dash from the get-go. There's only a couple that might be plan specific, and I'll make sure to highlight those as we go through them. And then here we have your dashboard. So total users, I have 18 users. These are people who make and receive calls. Depending on your plan, the more users you have, you might increase your bill, right? So if I added 2 more people, my bill may increase if my plan is based on a per user basis. Now, next up, we've got total devices, and then the breakdown. So I have 35 total devices, and then you see up first we've got cell phone. Looks like I have 15 cell phones on my account. Then we got web phones. Looks like I have 12 of those. Soft phone. Looks like I have 6 more of those. Now, soft phone, software application that acts as a phone, uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. The web phone is technically a type of soft phone, right? Because it's using your browser, so software. We separate them out just because the web phone is new, or is newer. It's also a little bit more specialized. Soft phone is very general, right? So you can get software from another company, say like Counterpath, use their soft phone application on your Dash account. Now, the soft phone could also refer to you using the VirtualPBX soft phone application, whether on a desktop computer or a mobile device. And soft phone can also be used to program a VoIP phone that isn't auto provision supported by us. Speaking of that, SIP phone. So this is a kind of VoIP phone. This is a physical phone sits on a desk, for example. So VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. There are many kinds of VoIP phones on the market, right? SIP being one of those subtypes. So if you're out shopping for phones, you want to make sure that the phone you buy is SIP compliant or SIP compatible. Then you at least have a chance to work with us. And then we have landline, which is pretty self-explanatory. Now down here at the bottom, you see I have unregistered devices 11. This means Dash knows that 11 of my devices, meaning 11 of my VoIP phones, are not registered, meaning not connected to Dash. So we can't send calls to those devices. This could be because someone didn't plug in their VoIP phone, right? Or they haven't logged into their soft phone app. It could be more complicated, right? It could be, someone bought a new router and now they can't get connected, right? So there might be a router setting problem there. All right, total numbers, 26. Now, on our plans, your plan includes anywhere from, I believe, 2 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. If you go over that allotment, you will be charged per number per month. So let's say your plan includes 15 numbers. When you add phone number 16, that could be an additional $1.99 per month for that one phone number. I believe the range is $1.99 to $4.99 per month. You should confirm that with our account services team to verify what your charges would be for additional phone numbers if you're over your plan allotment. All right, here we have a breakdown: assigned numbers versus spare numbers. An assigned number means you're using it, right? Someone can dial it and expect to get to a voicemail box or to a person, or they're going into your conference rooms, or they're sending you a fax, right? It's going someplace. It's being utilized. Spare number, it's on your account, counts towards your allotment, but you're not using it right now. Let's say like you had a special promotion for Mother's Day, right? And Mother's Day just passed. You can then unassign that number, right? Put in your spare number, so that way you're not getting calls on a promotion that's no longer valid. Or it could be something you're going to use for a future promotion, or let's say you got like a block of 10 numbers in sequence. You just haven't gotten to the last couple of numbers in that sequence. All right, another breakdown here at the bottom: USDID and US toll-free. It's actually US Canadian toll-free. So 800 number, right? Toll-free number is 800, 888, all the way down to 833 currently. USDID, that just means a US local number, right? So you can have a phone number, say, in Los Gatos, California, or in Elmira, New York, or Grapevine, Texas, wherever you are, or wherever you want to have a phone number, you can have a number there. Now, you can also have international phone numbers on your account. If you're interested in adding an international phone number, you're going to need to email our porting team. That's porting@virtualpbx.com. They will need to know the city and country that you're interested in. They will let you know if there's additional requirements, right? Some countries, like Germany, for example, requires proof of presence within the city that you're requesting a number in, right? Like a utility bill is typically enough of a proof of presence for them. But that will vary from country to country. All right, conference bridges. I have 4. This means I have enabled conferencing on 4 of my users. Now, I can't do that unless I have main conference number, which I already have on this account, but that's something to be aware of. So over here on the right, you've got my main numbers, right? So these 4 numbers, these numbers all behave in the same fashion, meaning they're all going to go to the same location. They're all going to have the same main greeting. All right, next up, I've got my conference number. You can have multiple conference numbers if you're so inclined. They're all going to go to the same set of conference rooms. Fax box numbers, by default, you can have 1. And so this enables faxing on your account, first and foremost. This is also your inbound fax phone number. Excuse me. Next, we have the company directory. This downloads a text file, has your users and their extension numbers. Right, so people like to print out of the extensions, they can do so. The soft phone directory, this is actually for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. Right, so you would download this file and then upload it to the VirtualPBX desktop app. And this will allow you to see the status of your other colleagues that are using the VirtualPBX soft phone app, right? So I have this installed on my soft phone on my Mac, and I can, bring up my contact list, and I can see if, like, my colleague Jeff if he's on a call, right? So I'm like, okay, I can't call him right now to talk about a customer that we've both been helping, right? So I can't give an update over the phone right now, right? But then I can see, oh, he just got off the call. I can give him a call real quick. We can talk about it. Store discount code right here, right? So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount going buying anything in store.virtualpbx.com. And then lastly, we've got the account realm. This is used in a couple different things. One, it's used in that third-party VoIP phone use, right? Whether that's a third-party soft phone application or you're using those third-party credentials to program a physical VoIP phone. This is one of the key pieces of information you will need. The other thing it's used for is for sending faxes out. Currently on Dash, to send a fax out, you're creating an email, right? So you use on your user, right, has an email address you use to log in with. That email address, you use that to create a new email. In the to field of that email, you put the plus symbol, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you attach a PDF or a TIFF file and click send. Right? So basically what happens is system gets your email, right? Says, okay, looks at the to field, grabs the first part, says, okay, this is where I'm sending it to, looks at the realm, says, okay, this is where it's coming from, and then grabs the PDF or TIFF file, right? The first attachment it sees, says, all right, gonna translate this into analog signal, send it out to the fax line at that phone number. Now, faxing out does take some time on the system. And there's the largest fax I've been able to send out is 7 megabytes. So it's a pretty large file. That took over an hour for me to get notification that it went through. So there is a delay between getting it sent out and you getting that notification. And most customers have not sent that large of a file. So there's that. All right, up here at the top, we've got your caller ID. This is your main company caller ID or your default caller ID. Now, the pull down here would be all your main numbers, right? So these 4 numbers over here, I could typically choose from. Whichever one you select, that becomes your default for any of your VoIP phones when they make an outbound call. Right, now you've got the company caller ID name. This is, you can input up to 15 characters. That includes spaces and special characters, right? So I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters used here, right? Because I have that one space. Once you click on Save Changes down here at the bottom, this gets transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAM. It takes about 3 business days for all of them to get updated. Usually it's a little faster than that, but 3 is the maximum that typically it takes. Then once you make an outbound call on your VoIP phones, that's the information that gets sent out. Now, something to keep in mind, not every carrier supports CNAM. So it's possible when you make an outbound call that your call goes through a carrier that doesn't support CNAM, which means your CNAM information does not get all the way to your destination. even for the carriers who do support it, it's not high priority, right? So if they're having heavier than expected call volume for whatever reasons, it may not go through. And obviously, if they're having a maintenance or an outage, they're, again, more concerned about trying to get the call connected versus anything else at that point. Last thing, the carrier that the destination device is on, right? So like, let's say you're calling an AT&T cell phone. AT&T ultimately decides what gets displayed on the phones on their network. So if they, if they support CNAM, then they can put it there, right? If they don't, they won't. But that's also like why when you make calls on your cell phone, you might see like telemarketer or spam risk, right? That's your cell carrier giving you a warning about, what this call might be about. They control that. Also, some cell carriers don't support CNAM unless you pay a monthly fee. Like I know I use AT&T, at least here in Vegas, and they want $10 a month to have CNAM on my cell phone. I'm not willing to pay that, but there are people who are willing to do so. So those are the caveats with CNAM. Now, company emergency information, or E911. This is the address that's associated with this phone number. So if someone on my account picks up a VoIP phone, dials 911, by default, this is the address information that is sent to emergency services. So 1, you want to make sure you're putting in a valid address. 2, every one of your phone numbers can have a different address. So then you can associate your VoIP phones to these different addresses. So that way you have the right addresses for where your employees are located. So any changes you make on this page or anywhere, typically click on Save Changes. That will save your changes. It does take a little while to get things updated. Of course, that's partially because I'm impatient. All right, next up we've got hold music. So hold music on Dash, that's the system defines that as after a call has connected to a user and then the user has pressed hold on their VoIP phone. That's when hold music plays. You can upload your own files. For Dash, you can upload .wav, .mp3, and technically .ogg. You want to record in mono, not in stereo, and currently the file size is limited to 1 megabyte. So 1 megabyte MP3, for example, is about 5 minutes. But you would click Browse to find the file on your computer, and then you would click this up arrow icon here to upload it to the system, and then you would click on Save Changes. All right, hours is actually part of main number, so we're just going to go to main number and just go through all of main number in order. Main number does sometimes take a while to load, and that has a lot to do with all the options involved. All right, so first up, we've got your main company numbers. Again, these are those same 4 numbers. If I decide I no longer want to use one of these numbers as a main number, you can click Unassign. Now, what that has done is that simply just put it into my spare number status, right? It's still on my account, so I'm still could be being charged for it, but it's no longer a main number. Now, if you need to add more main numbers, you always have the option to add from spare numbers, so you can select any of your spare numbers here, or you're like, nope, don't want to use any of those, or let's say you've expanded to a new area, right? So then you want to click on By Numbers. You have an option of local and toll-free. Toll-free, pretty straightforward. You choose a toll-free prefix, click on Search, and you select a number that you like. Right, you see your cart increases to 1, you got the number here. You can remove it if you don't want. You can add multiple numbers at once. You can scroll down and the list should continue to populate. Once you've selected a number, you just click on By Numbers. It's going to activate it, and basically at this point it's verifying the number was still available, then adds it to your system and activates it. For local numbers, you need to know the area code you're looking for, right? So let's go Southern California, 310. I'm not expecting to find any because I believe, we actually have a couple. So some So depending on where you are, right? Some areas have multiple area codes, right? Los Angeles has something like 5 or 7 area codes. New York City has several. Toronto has several, etc. So you may need to do searches for what are referred to as overlay area codes. Your typical area codes have about 7.5 million phone numbers total, right? That's all the possible combinations. Not all of those are typically being used. Like, I'm surprised this number is available, because that's one of the, ending in zeros tends to be pretty commonly taken. But again, you can add a number, click on by numbers, and add it to the account. So let's say you want like the 310 area code and nothing showed up in the search, right? Because that's the original Los Angeles area code. Those original area codes that they were created in 1947, a lot of them are exhausted, right? They're very rarely do we get numbers showing up for 310. We can try to back order them via our porting department, but there's no guarantee of when we're getting them, and what that number is going to be. You don't get a selection; you just get the first available that comes up. All right. Anywhere you have a number, you can click on the little gear icon, and this is where you can adjust the caller ID for that specific phone number. Right, so you can have a specific outbound caller ID. You can also turn on the ability to have inbound CNAME come through to your users. Right, here you've got the option to add the E911 for a specific phone number. Prepend, this is for your VoIP phone users. You can add text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your VoIP phone's display, right? So this can give your staff members a heads up about what the call might be about. So like if we go down to this one down here, I can go to prepend, right? And then I could say LA, or actually I'd probably do something like that so people would know that it's about Los Angeles, and then save changes. So now when a call comes in on this 323 phone number, goes to one of my users with a VoIP phone, on their VoIP phone it will say La La Land and then the inbound caller ID. Messaging, this is a plan specific feature, right? We do support what we refer to as business SMS. On a main number, to make use of messaging, you need to have an account that has Zapier integration and or webhooks integration. You can double check if your plan includes that with our account services team, and they can verify that for you. But then you'll need to make use of those to actually make use of messaging. Now, you can also have messages enabled on a phone number that goes directly to a user. In that instance, you don't need Zapier or webhooks. Now, anywhere you can add a number, you will always have the option for add from spare numbers or by numbers, right? Whether that's directly to a user or group, etc. I'll try to make sure to highlight that as we go through. Right, office hours strategy. So new accounts, you typically start off as 24-hour open office. Many go to the custom office hours. Each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark in front of that day, and then in the boxes here to the right, you select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option at the very bottom to say you're closed for lunch, in which case you put in your lunch hours and let the system know, again, when your lunch hours start and when they end. Then we've got office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, click on the little check mark box here. And then you click on add holiday over here to the right. Then you've got the option for single day, date range, and advanced. Each one of these will create a new row. Single day, for example, we have here for President's Day. You give it a name for the holiday, and then you set the month and the date. Right, date range, we use Christmas here as an example. So I put a start date of December 23rd, ends on the 26th. One thing to keep in mind about date range, right? There's no year indicator here, so you want to avoid a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, right? You want to put those on two separate individual single day holidays. And then for advanced, that's what we use this retreat option as an example here. I'm just saying, hey, the first Friday in July, we're closed, right? It's company picnic day, right? So here, you choose any month of the year. This second column, it's first through fourth as well as last, and then you pick a day of the week. All right, incoming call handling. So this is for all of these main numbers, how are the calls being handled, right? So we have, right now I'm in 24-hour open office, so I have my open hours and my holidays tabs up here. Right, if you have custom office hours, you also have an after hours tab. If you're closed for lunch, you'll have a fourth tab for lunch hours. Holidays is always at the end. Now, these options are going to exist all the way around, right? So the first one here, call comes in and it's going to my virtual receptionist. So any of my main numbers, right? Call comes in, they're going to go to my virtual receptionist. This is a link, so I'll open this up. Sorry about that. And then here on the left, you see my main menu, right? So this is what people press on their phone to navigate through my phone system. Then over on the right, I have my greeting options and then some settings. Now, when you first get started, right, if you just started, for example, you have no main menu, right? So you would click on Add Route. This creates a route here. You've got 0 through 9 plus star and the default route. Get rid of that just because I already have a default route here. Now, you can always change these menu options. And then here, you've got quite the selection from. First, Smart Directory, right? This is so people can dial people by name to find who they're looking for. You can select a specific user, right? So you can send it to Bob, the salesperson. You can send a menu option to a call queue. You can send calls to a specific device. Now, we don't generally recommend this because if the device doesn't have a voicemail that picks up in time, the inbound caller may just get disconnected before they can leave a message, for example. Media file, you can have a greeting message play, right? Like hours of operation or directions. Similar to the device though, once that media file stops playing, the call ends. So not always recommended. Further down, we've got groups. Groups is for departments, right? Basically, queues are an advanced version of groups. Groups are included in all plans, whereas queues have an additional fee associated with it. Advanced call flows, if you see them on a main menu, this is if you want to make use of what's called sub-menuing. Primary example that I use for that is, if your main greeting says press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, 1 and 2 would then be sub-menus, right? So you would have additional attendants where you would have, when someone presses 1, they hear a second greeting play in English and then sends calls to your English-speaking staff members. If someone presses 2, right, they get a Spanish menu, right, a Spanish greeting, and then their menu options would take them to Spanish-speaking staff members. Right, and then you can send them to a voicemail box, right, so they can just leave a message. All right, greetings. Over here on the right, text to speech. You basically type in what you want the system to say, and you click update. This is in a computerized or robotic voice. Excuse me. You have about 250 to 350 characters to type up your greeting. We've found that if you go beyond that, you sometimes get errors and it just doesn't update properly. Another thing to keep in mind is every time you click update on the text-to-speech greeting, the system will save the file, but it gives them all the same name, right? So this is our open greeting right now, right? We're in our open hours. So in the greetings manager, which we'll be getting to, it will say main open hours menu TTS, right? Now if I click update again, it'll save another file, but that same name. So then I'll have to go through and listen to them separately to figure out which ones are active or rename them. Upload your own file. Again, you can upload a .wav, .mp3, .ogg. We do recommend that you record in mono and keep it under 1 megabyte. You can choose from existing recordings. This pull down will show you all of your available media files that you can select from. Next is recorded over the phone. Now, when the system says pick up a registered phone to this account, it means a registered VoIP phone. If you do not want to do that, like you want to just, you have that friend with a radio voice, and they like, hey, just, have them call in from their cell phone. Under settings, where it says allow outside recording, if you turn that on, now you can call in from a cell phone. You can still then enter this PIN number and record your greeting over the phone. Now, this PIN number is specific to this time of day, right? So this can only work during my open hours. Likewise, my holiday PIN number will be different and only works when the system's in holiday mode. The last thing to keep in mind about recorded over the phone, if you already have a greeting file in place, right? So when that greeting file plays, you enter this PIN number and you'll record a new greeting. It overwrites the greeting file that you had in place, right? Greeting A was playing when you called in. You record a new greeting, you hit save, you go back out. The system still has greeting A, right? Greeting file A is still there, but the content has now been overwritten. So if you have a current greeting playing, but you want to reuse it, like it's your main greeting, but you want to change something for, say, an upcoming holiday or because there's a special event or what have you, you would want to select a different greeting file first, right? So choose from the existing recording, click update, click save, and save changes, then call in, record that new greeting, and then you can have that selected. And then when you're ready to go back to your normal greeting, just come back to choose from an existing recording and then choose greeting file A to be playing once again. All right. Professional recording services. When you click order, this will take you to a separate website by Snap Recordings, who we've partnered with. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They have different versions of English, like you can have UK English or Australian English, for example. They have Spanish and French, and I believe they have multiple versions of those as well. You can also do things like what they refer to as hold treatment, so like a music file and the script being read, that sort of thing. They have their own pricing. Typically bill through credit card. They typically deliver to you via email, and then once you have the file, then you can just upload your own file. All right, settings. Numbers of retries on missed dial. So right now it's set to 2. This should be something like 1 or 2, maybe 3. But basically it's how many times can someone enter in an invalid option, right? So I'm saying, and so like if someone calls in and they press, say 7, because that's not a valid option, right? So the first time they press 7, the system says, okay, that's not a valid option. It replays the greeting, right? And then they can have 2 more mistakes after that. This is a total of 3 mistakes, right? Just because they have that first initial option and then any additional ones after that. The dialing timeout should also be an integer, like 1 through 5, give or take. This is how much time the system waits after it hears that button press before it assumes the inbound caller is done, right? So I press 7, the system waits for a second, and this is, oh, they're done. Well, that's an invalid option, replays the greeting, right? Now, if I press 4, right, that is a valid option. It waits for that second, and then it will send me to this queue. And that second can be important, especially when you go down here. If you turn on allow dialing extensions, right, because then I can be hitting 488, right, to get to extension 488, if that's a valid extension or not. So yeah, allow dialing extensions. If you turn this off, that means the inbound caller can only press your menu options or get to the default route, right, in which case it can get to the smart directory in this case, right? If you turn this on, then they can enter an extension number if they know it. Then we've got suppress dialing of invalid entry. So basically, someone keeps pressing an invalid option, right? So they keep pressing 7. The system will play a message saying, invalid entry, please try again. Or if they're at their last attempt, then it said we did not recognize your entry, and either hang up or send you to the default route, right? If you turn this on, then that error message won't play, right? The system will react or go to its next action. Now, if you make any changes on the main menu, the greetings, or the settings, you do need to click Save right here. And then you also need to click Save Changes over here under Incoming Call Handling. Right? That saves all your changes. If you don't do the second save, sometimes what happens is when you call into your main number, you get a busy signal. Now, and the way to verify that is if you go to the call logs and you see your phone number reaching the system, but it's still getting a busy signal, first thing you want to do is come to Incoming Call Handling, click Save Changes, wait like 5 seconds, and then make a test call again and see if it works. If you've done that and it's still ringing busy, then you definitely need to call our support team to find out what's going on. All right, next option is the option 2 here. This is referred to as the live operator option, right? So call comes in, it's going to be offered to Aaron. If he's not able to pick up, then it will go to our virtual receptionist. Right now, this is the open hours, so that virtual receptionist is identical to what we just were looking at. Right, so basically 1 through 5, and then 6, 8, and default. Right, now this where it has Aaron's name, this is a pull down, so you can select from any user. Right, you can select from call queues, you can select from devices, you can select from media files. I don't recommend this just because that can be very confusing for your inbound caller, because essentially they'll get 2 media files playing, right? So that can throw people off. And then you can send it to a group or one of your other auto attendants. Now, one thing to keep in mind for these two options, the second and third options, when you're sending it to a user, group, etc., the system is only sending it to them for 20 seconds. After that 20 seconds, it goes whatever to that next action, in this case, it's going to the virtual receptionist. Option 3 is sending it to a user, group, queue, media file, etc. After 20 seconds, it's going to go to this particular voicemail. And you can select the voicemail box you want to send it to. Now, one additional option that's here is all the way at the bottom, is skip the voicemail. Right? So call comes in and it goes straight to the voicemail box. This is what I typically see on for some customers for their holidays. Right? Because, hey, we're not here. Think okay. Yeah, so typically what I would see is like on holiday, it would be this. Right, call comes in, just go right to this voicemail box. Click on Save Changes. Right, this last option here, this is you're sending it to a secondary auto attendant. Generally speaking, I don't think I've seen this on a live account anywhere. Normally, if I see the advanced call flows, it's going to say for an auto route reasons, which is a specialty feature, or it's a temporary thing. Normally, it's if you're going to have it go to one of your other attendants, you should make that other attendant's settings be here under incoming call handling, and then whatever's here becomes a secondary attendant. Right, main conference number, you can have multiple conference numbers, right? So you can add from spare or buy new numbers. You can have a custom greeting. This is a custom text-to-speech greeting if you click enable, and then you can type in what you want the system to say. Even if this is not enabled, the system does say, welcome to the conference, please enter the conference room number, and then we'll ask you for the PIN number. Once you have a conference number here, you can then enable the conference bridge feature on individual users. And then the main fax box number, again, if you don't have one assigned, you can add from new or add from spare or buy new. And then once you have done so, you can edit the fax box. Now on this account, the fax box is broken. On your accounts, when you click edit fax box, you'll see a box come up with 2 fields. The first field is for inbound notifications. Basically, you put an email address in, and any fax that comes in will be sent to that email address. They'll have a PDF as an attachment. They can click on that and view the fax. Now, if someone calls your fax box number, right, and then hears fax tones and hangs up, right, they dialed the wrong number, that inbound notification email address will get an email saying there was a failed inbound fax attempt. So that's something just to be aware of. The second field is for outbound permission. So like if you own your own company domain, right, so like at abccleaners.com, you can add that domain in that second field. Then all of your staff members, even if they're not a user on Dash, they can send a fax out. They just need to know that format, the +1 area code and phone number, @ your account realm, and simply just attach a PDF or TIFF file. So like if you have an intern and you want them to be faxing out to people, right, you don't need to add them as a user on your Dash account and potentially increase your bill. You can just say, hey, here, this is how you fax out. Here's the phone number, +1 phone number. Here's your, the account realm. Attach this file, send it out to these phone numbers. All right, auto attendants. I've touched on this a little bit. So this is a plan-specific feature, meaning it's available on some plans and not on others. If this ends up being something you're interested in and you do not have auto attendants on the left of your navigation bar, then you do need to talk to our account services team, because that means you probably do need to change your plan. It's possible it may not have been turned on your plan for some reason, so they can verify if your plan includes it and get that turned on for you. Now, a couple use cases. I've touched on one of them, which is submenuing, right? Pressing 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. You would then create your Spanish and English attendants here. The other use case, which is probably more common, is if you have multiple businesses and you want them on the same account, right? You have the same staff members handling calls for multiple businesses, but each one of those businesses, right, has their own phone number and has their own main greeting, right? So like you have a dog walking business and a cleaning business, right? Two very different businesses. They have two different phone numbers, and they would have two different main greetings, but you can have the same people answer calls for both of them. That's the most common case that we see. To create a new attendant, you start at the top here and click on Add Attendant. And you start off by giving it a name and giving it an extension number. This is a unique extension number, right? So it can't already be in use. The system is suggesting one of 1011, but you can type in whatever you want here. And then you would click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, you can click on the name. And then here you can choose to have it become available in a main menu, or by default it's listed as unavailable, right? So when it's unavailable in main menu, what you're saying is this is a standalone attendant, right? So you expect calls to come into this one on its own. It's not a sub menu, right? If I want to make it a sub menu, I just click on it, click on where it says unavailable, and you see here now it's available in a main menu, which means it can be in any of my other auto attendants. Now, because this is a standalone, this is why it has its own phone number here, right? I can add from spare, I can buy numbers, so I can have multiple phone numbers for this attendant as well. Again, you have the extension number box here. You can add additional extensions if you want to, as well as unassign extensions. And then here you got the wrench icon under these settings. It will take a little while to load. And then you see I have open hours and holidays. These holidays match what I already set up under main number, right? As well as if I have after hours, right, it would match my hours of I set up under main number. So like if you had if this secondary business, I needed to be open 24/7, right, 7 days a week, whereas my main number I'm only setting up Monday through Friday, then that's obviously going to have a problem. So you would either, in that case, you'd want to talk to our account services team. It's possible that they could basically have custom work on your account. That usually has a one-time setup fee. Or it might be easier just to have two separate accounts, right? So one for the business that's 24/7, and then another for the business that's Monday through Friday. But You can click on this virtual receptionist link here, and you can set up your routes, and you can have your different greeting, as well as customize these settings, just like we went over under virtual receptionist. Now, bear in mind that these attendants only have the option to go to the virtual receptionist, right? There's no operator answer option, right? Or sending it directly to voicemail. Currently, you are limited to up to 10 attendants on the accounts. All right, next up we have devices. So devices shows all your devices on the account. Green means it's connected or registered, meaning we can send calls to it. Red means it's unregistered, meaning we cannot send calls to it. Black means you've turned it off, right? It's disabled. Now you can add devices directly to this page. SIP phone, right? This is that physical VoIP phone. Here you choose your manufacturer, and then you find the model that you want to work with. And then you enter device name, right, like Bob's phone. And then you enter the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each device. Typically, a sticker on the back of the phone will have it. Or if you click on, typically it's menu status, MAC is one of the options there, and you would just enter that information there. Now, like on Yealink, they have DECT phones here, like the W52P. The MAC address is on the base station, not on the handsets. That's one of the things you should keep in mind. Right, so you may pick up the handset and you're like, where's the MAC address? And what we need is the one that's on the rectangular box that the base station connects to. All right, so once you've added, let's go back to that Cisco here. All right, so once you've given a name, you've added the MAC address, you click create device. The only other thing you need to do with the phone within your dashboard is assign that device to a particular user. And within Dash, it's done as far as the dashboard is concerned. However, on the VoIP phone, you need to access the phone's web UI, the web user interface. You basically go menu status, and you should be able to find the IP address. You enter that IP address into the address bar of your browser, and then you should be able to log into the UI that way. And you need to enter in a URL into the auto provision section, basically telling the phone, hey, go here. It will grab its config file. The phone will reboot, usually 2 or 3 times, and then it will show up as a green device on the account page, or the devices page here. For the specifics of the URL, because I don't remember all the details of it, as well as screenshots in the web UI that you're looking for, you want to go to the Dash support pages. On the right-hand side, about, call it a third of the way down, under VoIP phones, you're looking for auto provisioning phones. That's the name of the document. It's going to have screenshots for these manufacturers, as well as a specific URL. I think in some cases there are additional settings that they want you to verify. But you just go through that, and then you should be able to get that device up and running. All right, cell phone and landline are identical, except for their naming. But what you do is you give it a name, again, like Bob's phone, and then you put the phone number. Right now, you still need that +1, and then area code and phone number, and then you would click on create device. Now, when Dash sends a call to a cell phone, right, that phone will ring, and when you pick up, you're going to hear a message saying, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. Right? It's verifying that you're ready for the call. Now, that doesn't work in every instance. For example, let's say you're making use of an automated answering service for your after hours. what you would want to do is, because that automated answer service cannot press 1, right? It's essentially a computer. It doesn't know when to press that 1 tone. So what you would want to do is on your Dash account, under that device, right? You click on Advanced and Options, put a check mark here in front of Allow Use of Cell Phone's Voicemail, and then click Save Changes. So now when we send a call to that phone number, right, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call, right? So your automated answer service then takes over, handles the call. If you're actually sending it to your cell phone and you have this checked, if your cell phone voicemail picks up, we still treat that like a connected call, meaning that inbound caller can end up on your personal cell phone's voicemail box. Some people want that, some people do not. So that's something to be aware of. The other thing that can come into play is this one here, keep original caller ID. So when a call is being, say customer Mary is calling you on your account and it rings to your cell phone, and by default, you're seeing Mary's phone number on your cell phone. You don't recognize it. You're like, I don't need to hear about extending my car warranty yet again today. You let the call go to voicemail, right? So then you have to call her back, and hopefully you can, get the sale or, complete her request. To help with that, what you can do is uncheck this and then click on Save Changes. So now when the call comes through on your cell phone, instead of seeing Mary's phone number, you're going to see your default phone number, which, if we go back to your dashboard, right, that's this number under your caller ID. All right, so then you can recognize it. Oh, this is a work call. Let me take this, right, versus something unknown. All right, soft phone. On this page, you have this warning message basically saying, because of wireless VoIP technology, dialing 911 from a mobile soft phone may not be recommended, or just be aware of where you're at. And then here you give it a device name. You're going to want to copy and paste the SIP username, and then if you click on the SIP password, you can then copy and paste that. And then you're also going to want to get your account realm. You then click on Create Device. You're going to need those 3 pieces of information to program that third-party application, right, or that VoIP phone. So like you're using like Zoipier or I forget what, Bria from Counterpath. You can add the web phone here too. However, the web phone won't be functional until you add it to a user. The web phone uses your Dash login, so you need to actually associate it with a person first. So I'll cover that when we get to the users. All right, next up we've got the Greetings Manager. All right, this shows all your greetings on the account. All right, you see here I've got a main hours open TTS, and I have another one down here towards the bottom. So you can add greetings here, right? So in this case, you're uploading a .wav, .mp3, .oogg, right? Give it a name, find the file. You click on Create Greeting, it uploads the file. Here you got the name. The source, recording means recorded over the phone. Upload, you uploaded the file. TTS, text to speech. You can download these files so you can listen to them to see if they're relevant. And then if you click on the wrench icon, you can then change the name or delete the greeting completely. Next up, we've got groups. This is short for ring groups, essentially departments. Adding a group at the top here, you give it a name and an extension number. Again, it's a unique extension number. And then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in this group. And then you would click on Create Group. Now, once a group is created, if you click on the name, you can always change the name. And then you've got these group call attempts. This is how many times the inbound caller can try to reach out to your staff members. You got little arrows here to the right where you can increase it or decrease it. And then any changes you make, click on Save Changes. If you click on the members box here, going to show you all your staff members that are in this group. So right now I'm ringing in sequence. Right up here on the top, this is your timestamps. This last one here is your total ring time, and by default it's 120 seconds. You can actually edit this to be longer or shorter. And then you can also change the order. So like I can click and drag and move myself up here at the top. I can move Jan to the bottom because let's say he's got a special project I want him working on, etc. Right? So click and drag people around. Now the order still hasn't changed, right? It's still going to go Angelica first, etc. So what I would want to do in this case is click distribute again. So now it's going in this order. Now these are all sliders. So I can adjust the ring times individually if I want to. And do something like that. But these are essentially all the routing options you have for a group. Right, either in order, reversing the order. You could also do something like this where you have everyone ring the whole time. I guess I probably should have chose a smaller membership group to make this a little bit faster. All right, but this is referred to as blast ringing or ring all. So now a call comes in, rings everyone for the whole time until someone picks up. Right, so call comes in and Duke answers the call. All right, second call comes in, Duke will hear a call waiting to beep on his side until, let's say, Angelica answers that second call. Now, for group members, right, you're in the group. You're always in the group. You can't mark yourself away. You can't log out of it manually, right? Unless you're an admin, then you can remove yourself. All right, groups can have extension numbers. All right, you can add additional extension numbers if you want them to. This is so your staff members can transfer calls to other groups. Groups can also have their own phone number. Right, you can add from spare or buy new. One thing to keep in mind though is when you add a phone number to a group, like in this case, right, this phone number is available all the time, meaning it ignores your time of day settings, right? So if you have open hours, someone calls this number at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's still gonna ring this member, right? So if this is, let's hear, I don't even know who's in this group. So it's me. So someone calls this number at 2 in the morning, my phone will ring at 2 in the morning. Now, so if I have my personal cell phone, for example, my personal cell phone will ring at 2 in the morning. So that's something to keep in mind about phone numbers directly to groups. Or for users for that matter. All right, group features. If you click on the box here, you'll see the various group features. First up is ringback. This is essentially hold music for the group. When you click enabled, you can upload a file, right? .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. The main thing to remember is that this file, you want it to match or exceed your ring duration of the group, right? So 2 minutes by default. The system will not automatically loop the file for you, and when that file ends, it then will start either end the call, right, or go to next action, or start another ring through. Speaking of next action, if you click on enable, basically if no one picks up, where do you want to send the call? Right, so you've got your options here. Right, you can send them back to your main open hours menu, right, the virtual receptionist. You can send it to one of your auto attendants. You can send it to one of your queues. You can send it to a specific device. You can send it to another group, a specific user, and a voicemail box. All right, allow call forward. If you enable this, you're letting your users make use of call forwarding, meaning they can send calls from their primary device, right? They're not going to be at their desk that day, and it goes to their cell phone, for example. And then caller ID prepend. This is again for your VoIP phone users. You can put text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on their VoIP phones. Right? Give them a heads up about what the call might be about. Especially useful if they're in multiple groups or queues, etc. All right, numbers. shows the numbers that you're using and where they're going. And then you also have your spare numbers. These are numbers you're not using currently. Now, I'm well over any allotment of phone numbers for the account types. So keep an eye up here where it says numbers and the by. If I want to remove a number from the account, I can click on the box in front of it, and now I have the option to delete. Right, so I can also get rid of this toll-free number. And then I click on delete. The system asks me if I'm sure. I confirm the deletion. And now it says you have successfully deleted numbers. And now I have removed 2 numbers from my account. So I've saved a little money per month. Also here we have the option to port a number. So port is an industry term. It means move a number from one carrier to another. So like from, say, T-Mobile to VirtualPBX. Right, you click on new port request, you give it a name, and then you select US, local, or toll-free. And then you click on next, and now it's asking me to upload a copy of my bill, right, in a PDF format. And then you click on I acknowledge, and then you continue through the steps. Basically, the later steps are, entering your phone number and that you're porting, or phone numbers. You can move multiple at once as long as they're from there, as well as the address associated with that phone number or phone numbers. And then it's going to let you download a blank letter of agency, or LOA, and then you can upload a completed and signed version of that LOA. And then eventually it gives you some check boxes to check, basically saying, hey, don't cancel the other account, and a few other things to keep in mind about porting. And then you submit both documents to our porting team. Once the submission completes, right, you'll get an email, an automated email saying, hey, we got your submission. Usually by the next business day, you'll get a second email from our porting team. That means they've actually reviewed the documents and have submitted the port request. That email will also include things to expect about what might be going on with the port. Now, if we get a rejection, right, basically the other carrier says there's something wrong with the information, we get general information. Like we'll say, they'll give us like unauthorized user, right? All we know is that the person who signed the LOA was not authorized as far as the other carrier is concerned. They're not going to tell us who it's supposed to be, right? Likewise, like company name or like a bad address, they're not going to say, oh, you transposed to 2 digits on the address. Now, these things we'll double check typically, right, to make sure like we didn't typo anything on our side. But ultimately, we have to go by what's on the LOA and or what's on the bill, right? And if it doesn't match those things, then we do let you know, hey, we have an error. You're going to probably have to contact your current carrier to find out what it's supposed to be. Now, for the LOA, it does ask you for your company information, right? Like the company name, the address, etc. That information should match what your current carrier has on file for that phone number, right? So if with VirtualPBX, you're XYZ cleaners, but with T-Mobile, you're ABC cleaners, on the LOA, it should be ABC cleaners, right? It does need to be signed, right? Digital signature is fine, or you can print it out and sign it and scan it back in. But simply typing the person's name twice will get rejected every time and delay the port request. Now, toll-free numbers typically take about 3 to 5 business days, assuming that there's no rejections. Local numbers can be anywhere from a day to about 3 weeks. And at least the only ones I've seen consistently happen within a day are Google Voice numbers that have already been unlocked. They typically port the next business day. But most other phone numbers usually in that 2 to 3 week range. Excuse me. All right. Next up, we have users. All right. Add user up here at the top. Enter their first and last name. The email address used for login is unique, or needs to be unique for each user. All right. So, like, I can't use support@virtualpbx.com for Bob, Mary, Angela, and myself, right? I would need to have different email addresses for each one of them. Now, the system doesn't really care if they're legitimate or not, right? So I could put support 1 and support 2. and that way they each have their own individual login. You do need to create a password for them, and then you need to give them a main extension. Now, again, the system is suggesting extension 1011 because I started this system with extension 1000 and saying that's the next available in that series. I can change this, right? I can say, hey, I started a new business. You guys are starting off with extension 7000. Then we have the options down here. Create a voicemail box for this user. Once you we do recommend you keep this checked. So once you click on create user, and let's say you add a VoIP phone to this user, they can then pick up their VoIP phone, hit *98 on that VoIP phone. That's going to track them directly to this voicemail box that you created for them. The system will then prompt them to create a PIN number for that voicemail box and then walk them through recording a new greeting, right? Voicemail greeting for their voicemail box. Include in the company directory. Put a check mark for yes, leave it blank for no. You can change your mind later. Send emails to an alternate address. You can, again, you put a check mark here, add a different address than what's up here, right? And then for like password resets, or if you're creating a soft phone for the user, VirtualPBX soft phone, voicemail notifications, they'll go to this alternate email address instead of the email address used for login. And then I think this one's very important, send credentials to the user, right? So they get their email, their password. Click on create user if you only need to add one person. If you need to add multiple, create user and add another. Once a user is created, you see here that some people have a blue suit icon and some people don't. People with the blue suit icon are your system admins. The gray people are just your standard users. If you click on their names, you can change their name. You can change their credentials. Again, change their email address, password. You can also send them the password reset email directly. Like, let's say you forgot to hit send credentials to the user. You can just say, here, click this instead, and then they can create their own password. Here you've got to change the voicemail box PIN, and this is a temporary one. Now, for your cell phone and landline users, you do need to give them a PIN number in their voicemail box so they can log in and then set it up themselves. Right? Your VoIP phone users, as I said, they can do that *98. Here you have the options to send to an alternate address as well as to appear in the company directory. Over here on the right, this is a pull down. So you can change an admin to be a user or make a user into an admin. This is, next up we have the time zone for the user, right? It sets you to the account default, but you could send it to whatever. And typically I just say use the search bar here to find the appropriate city like Chicago or New York, etc. This next up is the default language, or display language, I should say, for the web and for when you go through the dash interface on your browser. You can have French, German, Russian, and English. Ringing timeout is default to 20 seconds. So this is how much time the system will try to send a call to their devices. Right, 20 seconds, typically plenty of time for like a landline or a VoIP phone. If a person is using cell phones, we recommend between 45 and 60 seconds. And it simply takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than it does to a landline. Especially from a PBX perspective, right? Like when a call comes to your cell phone, you don't know how long it took to route to you. You just hear your phone ring, you answer it, right? Same as if you had it next to a landline. Phone rings, you pick it up to answer it, or you ignore it because you're like, I don't want to take a call right now. For PBX, right? Call comes in, we need to send it to, in this case, Aaron. They're like, okay, we're sending it to a landline, right? We send the call to the landline carrier. They say, we know exactly where that is. Boom, call goes to that phone, right? Versus, call comes to Aaron, it's going to a cell phone provider. They say, hold up a second, we need to find him first. Pings the cell phone towers, says, oh, found him, send the call through, right? It's that delay in terms of trying to find you is why you need to have a longer ring duration on your PBX account to get the call to the cell phone. And then you have the main extension number, which only really comes into play if you have people with multiple extensions. On the extensions box, This is where you can add additional extensions to a user if you're so inclined. That's not very common. It does come up every now and then. Phone numbers. Users can have their own phone numbers. Right? You can add from spare or by numbers. You can have multiple phone numbers on a user. Like I mentioned in groups, though, that calls to this phone number are going to bypass your time of day settings, right? So if you have people with their personal cell phones, they can get called at all times of the day. So that's something to be aware of. If you click on the devices box, actually here we can do that under Aaron as well. Right, so you can add from spare devices, so any device on your account that's not already assigned to somebody. Or you can add new device. So you got the same options, cell phone, SIP phone, etc. On the soft phone option, you should have the option here. Oh, it's not showing up on this account. Normally what happens here is you have a toggle here to say use VirtualPBX application. And then you would click on create device. I'll have to see if that's something wrong with the account itself or whatnot. But this is also where it's easier to add the web phone. Right, you simply just click OK. You give it a name and then you click on create device. So like, and then you would click on save changes. So now, the next time Aaron logs in to to the dashboard, right, when he clicks up here, he'll have that link for the web phone, or he can simply just go to webphone.virtualpbx.net and enter in his dash login information, and on either Chrome or Firefox, and they can receive calls. One thing about the web phone, it is supported on desktop or laptop versions of the browsers. It is not fully supported on mobile versions of Chrome or Firefox. Like I have gotten it to work on my Android phone on Chrome. At least I did a while ago. I haven't tested it recently. So, but in general, it's not supported on mobile devices. All right, next up we got user features. Caller ID number. This is only available if a user has their own phone number. When you turn it on, you're saying when that user makes an outbound call, their phone number is what shows up on the outbound caller ID instead of the main company number, right? If I don't have this enabled and I make an outbound call, let's say Angelica here makes a call from her phone, then she gets that number that shows up under the caller ID up here, the dashboard, right? This is the phone number that would show up on her outbound caller ID. Call forwarding, you have off, on, and failover mode. This is something your users can set up themselves on the user portal or from their VoIP phones if they're comfortable with the feature codes. But you can also set it up for them. If you turn it on, you say, okay, I'm moving it to a mobile or desktop phone, and then you put +1 area code and phone number. Now this phone number should not already be a device on the user, right? This is something they only use occasionally. Right, their devices on their user, right? That's their everyday devices. Now, failover mode. This is for your VoIP phone users, right? And again, you put in a phone number that's not a device already on the user. So basically, what failover means is the system detects that their VoIP phone went offline, right? It's no longer registered. Call comes into my user at this point, and the system automatically sends it to my forwarding device. So then it rings on my cell phone, I pick up, going and handle the call, and then go, what happened with my VoIP phone, right? I check my internet connection and connections to my phone, etc. Hot desking is another VoIP-oriented feature. When you click enabled, you enter in a hot desk ID. Up to you if you want to enter in a PIN number. This is used for an instance where you're in a shared office environment where people don't necessarily have an assigned desk every time they come in, right? These days, it's probably fairly common that you have a lot of people working from home, but occasionally they may need to come into the office. So let's say today's Tuesday, I come into the office, I sit at desk number 7, I pick up the VoIP phone there. I hit *11, right? That turns on hot desking on the phone. The system will ask me for my hot desk ID number. Since I use 4-digit extensions, I just would put my extension number here, for example. And then the system said calls will be sent to this device, right? So now for the rest of my workday, people when they enter my extension number, it rings at the phone I'm sitting at, right? End of my day, I pick up that phone, I hit *12 to turn off hot desking. Say the next time I come in is Friday, right? Because I don't need to be in the office every day. And someone's already sitting at desk number 7, but desk number 1, the corner, seat by the window is available. So I go, heck yeah. Sit there, I hit *11 on the phone again, enter my hot desk ID, and now calls are ringing at the phone I'm sitting at. Voicemail box, again, this was enabled when I created the user. You have the option here to transcribe. I believe voicemail transcription is a plan-specific feature, so you'd want to double-check that if that's available via our account services team. Voicemail to email is automatically enabled, and what this means is the system will automatically attach a voicemail message to an email, right? So I get an email saying, hey, I have a new voicemail, and there's an attachment there. I can double-click on it. It's an MP3 file, and I can listen to it directly on my computer. Now, the option here, delete message from database after that notification. If you have this checked, that means after that email gets sent out, the system deletes the voicemail from the account. The reason you'd want to do that is because voicemails are limited to 100 messages in the voicemail boxes, right? Once you get to that limit, if a person tries to leave a message, the system says, mailbox is full, please try again later, which might be frustrating for your customers. Fax box, you can have individual users have their own fax box. You would just click enabled, right? You can add from spare numbers, you can buy a new number. You can also assign a new extension. Now, I don't typically recommend making use of an extension because it adds a layer of complication for people, right? So if I select an extension that's not being used, and then if I click Save Changes, I now have a fax extension. However, for someone to actually fax to me, right, they have to dial my main number. When they hear the greeting, they had to hit 399 in this case, and then hit send fax on their fax machine. Or on their fax machine, enter the phone number, like hit ** or comma to put pauses, and then 399, and then click send fax. Which is great if their fax machine supports that, or they can listen in from a handset on their fax machine. However, not every electronic fax service out there supports faxing to an extension, right? Like I've looked at, I think it's my eFax, right? It's the standard plan anyway. It's just a phone number. So that's why I typically say just select a spare number or buy a new number and set up a fax box to a user that way. Conference bridge, since I do have a main conference number, I can enable conferencing on a user. Once you've done so, then as an admin, the only thing you need to do is create a PIN number and then click on Save Changes. Now, the users can change their PIN numbers for their conferencing as well on the user portal. Follow me. This is for users with multiple devices. So what it looks like when you first enable it is it looks like this, saying, okay, what devices do you want to use? Right, and then you would uncheck the devices. Now up here is your total ring time, 120 seconds. You can click distribute so you can ring in an order, and just like in groups, right, I can click and drag and change the order if I want to, and then click on Save Changes. Right, music on hold, you can have your users have their own hold music if you are so inclined. You would just click enable, and then you upload a .wav, .mp3, .ogg recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Click upload, and then click the little up arrow, and then click on Save Changes. Customize call recording. So when you first enable it, it looks like this. Right, so it's enabled, but nothing is selected. You need to decide what kind of calls you want to be recorded. Right, so inbound internal means my coworker Bob called me. Right, whereas inbound external means customer Mary called me. right? Outbound internal means I called coworker Bob, right? Outbound external means I called customer Mary back. And then whichever one you select, you click on Save Changes. Do not disturb, that means you're putting that person on do not disturb, meaning calls go directly to voicemail. All right, voicemail boxes. So here you're going to see all the voicemail boxes on the account. The main voicemail box the system creates automatically, and by default sets it to number 0. Now, every user will have their own voicemail box here, as well as you can create your own voicemail boxes up here, right? You would create a voicemail box for like your ring groups or your queues, instead of having those messages go to a particular person's voicemail box. You give it a name, a voicemail box number, right? Now that voicemail box number should not match an existing voicemail box or extension number. It should be something different. And then a PIN number. And then you click on Create New Voicemail Box. Once you've created a voicemail box, or actually on any voicemail box, when you click on the little wrench icon here, right, you can always adjust the PIN number or the voicemail box number if you need to. And then go over under Advanced, under Greeting Media, you can upload a file, right? .wav, .mp3, .ogg under 1 megabyte recorded in mono. You can also have a temporary file. If you select a temporary file, it will supersede your standard media file, right? So that's that vacation or out of office, temporary out of office voicemail message, right? When that's over, you select temporary back to none, and then the standard media file will play. For manually created voicemail box, you also want to go to recipients to add a recipient, at least one, right? Your user voicemail boxes already have a built-in recipient, right? That's the email address used for login, so they're automatically getting notified. But even for them, you can add additional recipients, right? Like you can add like a manager email address if you wanted to. And then you have options. So for a voicemail box you just created, once you have that recipient added and a greeting media setup added, then you can click on this box in front of already set up. And then you have these options here for, do you want to delete after notification? Are you attaching the message, email to the message? And if you have transcription available, you can also choose to transcribe it. Any changes, you click on Save Changes. Advanced routing. The typical thing you'll see here is direct inward system access, or DISA. What DISA does is allows you to call in from a cell phone or a landline, log in over the phone essentially, and then make an outbound call. And when you make that outbound call, right, it's not your cell phone number is not going to be displayed. It's going to be your main company number. So to enable, you click on up here and you click on Enable. And by default, it just creates a PIN number for you randomly. And in that setup, you can then make it a menu option under your virtual receptionists or your auto attendants. Now, I normally recommend just adding an extension number and then click on Save Changes. So now, when you add an extension number, you don't need to make it a menu option any longer. And even if you make it a menu option, it's not something you have to announce, right, in your main greeting. You probably don't want to, in fact, because this is something only your staff members should be making use of. So they should know that menu option if you make it a menu option, or the extension number. So now when you call into the main number, right, you hear the greeting play, you enter in the extension number, then the system will prompt you for the PIN number. When you enter that PIN, after you enter that PIN number, you'll hear dial tone again, you enter area code and phone number, make an outbound call. Instead of your cell phone number showing up as the caller ID to that person you're calling, right, it's going to be this main number here. Now, by default, DISA does not automatically show up on new accounts. And the reasoning behind that was if someone figures out your PIN number, they can make outbound calls on your account and you're not necessarily going to know about it right away, right? Unless you're very vigilant about checking your call logs every day, you're not going to notice it until probably your next bill. And since some of our plans are built on minutes used, that can have a very big impact on their bill. So if it's something you want to make use of, that's something you would need to request to either our account services team or our support team to have it enabled on the account. But there's no extra charge for it. All right, call logs. This shows your call activity on the account. So here you got the green arrow to the right. That means that's an inbound call. I can see came from this 408 number, went to this other 408 number. Looks like this call either hung up or went to voicemail. Right, and if you click on it, you can also see in this case, it also went and rang to this device. And you see here the total time that they spoke, and then normal cleaning, meaning the call ended normally. Now, sometimes you'll see things like recovery on time or expire. Typically, that's going to a VoIP phone. And that normally indicates some sort of network issue. It could be dual NAT, it could just be a router setting. Now, you can download this file, and it's a .csv, so then you can search things by phone number, sort things by phone numbers, etc. The little fire hydrant icon here just lets you report a call. It creates an email. It's going to have the technical details. In the body of that email, I do recommend you type in or let us know what happened. Like why are you reporting this call? Is it because your phone didn't ring, or you had audio issues, what have you? Next up, we have feature codes. I've already touched on a couple of these, but basically these are codes used from your VoIP phones, typically, to make use of different features on the account. This one right here, *97, this you can actually use from a cell phone or landline, right? You call into your main number. When you hear the greeting play, you hit *97. Then the system will ask you for the voicemail box number and the PIN number, and you can check voicemail over the phone. Realize that's only going to work if you don't have delete after notification enabled. All right, so we've been on dashboard this whole time. So next up, let's go to ACD queues. ACD stands for automatic call distribution. This is, I don't believe it's actually plan specific, but it is an add-on feature. You want to check with our account service team to verify pricing. I believe it's $15 per month, but it can also be $30 per month depending on your plan. And just because the plans can change on me, it's possible that some plans actually you can't add queues to them unless you upgrade your plan. There's also ACD Queues Pro, right? There's a higher level of queue, and more advanced features. Those I believe start at $99 per month. You can click on Add New Queue. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the little gear icon here. So you give a queue a name, and then a queue can have either a phone number or an extension, right? So if it has a phone number, again, calls to that will bypass your open hours. You have a queue routing strategy, and unfortunately the pull down is not showing here. So most idle means among my staff members who are logged into the queue, whoever has been waiting the longest for a call gets the next call that comes in. You also have the option for ring all on the standard queues. On pro queues, I don't believe there's an option for ring all currently. There's also round robin, which will equalize out over time among my staff members. There is least calls. That means least amount of connected calls. So let's say Bob has spoken to 2 customers, Mary has spoken to 5. The next call that comes in will go to Bob, right? And then there's least offers. That's the combination of missed calls and connected calls. So let's say in that same scenario, right? Bob spoke to 2, Mary spoke to 5. But let's say under least offered, Bob has had 20 calls offered to him. Mary's only had 5 offered to her. Under least offers, the next call that comes in goes to Mary. Now, in those last 2 situations, let's say Dylan signs into the queue at 10 a.m., whereas Bob and Mary have started earlier than he did. So under least offers or least calls, Dylan would get the next call that comes in because he has 0. Hold treatment. Again, you can upload your own file, .mp3, .wav, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Now, under ACDQs Pro, you have more options in your hold treatment. You have things like announce their position in line. You can announce their expected wait time. You can have multiple media files play, right? So you can have initial media file play, say, please, thank you for calling. Please wait for the next available agent. Then you can have a media file play, right? A second media file with music, right? Then you can say, have it announce their expected wait time. Have a new media file play, whether that's a script or just music, right? Then you can say, announce their position in line, etc., and keep going. Queue timeout. This is measured in seconds. This is how much time your inbound callers can wait on hold. The queue call limit. This is how many people can wait on hold. This is on top of the people who are already speaking to your staff members, right? So if Bob and Mary are talking to 2 customers, right? 1 customer each. 4 additional customers can be waiting on hold. Timeout immediately if empty. If you enable this, that means if I have no staff members logged in and a call comes into the queue, the system will treat them as if they hit this 2,000 second limit. Excuse me. Escalation queue. You'd have to have a second queue for this, but basically that means if all my staff members are busy, then calls would then flow into the secondary queue. And then escalation call flow after timeout. Basically, you're saying, hey, after that 2,000 seconds has elapsed, where am I sending the calls? None means the call just ends, right? Advanced call flows, meaning you're sending it to one of your secondary attendants. You can send it to a device. You can send it to a group. You can send it to the directory. You can send it to a media file. Again, once the media file stops playing, it ends. You can send it to a specific user or a voicemail box. Under agent behavior, the agent recovery timeout is basically after an agent is done with a call from the queue, right? In this case, the system will not offer them a second call from this queue for 30 seconds. Gives them time to get a sip of water, finish up their notes in the CRM application, etc. Force away on rejected or missed. If this is enabled, means if an agent misses a call, the system puts them on away mode, and the user, right, your staff member, has to mark themselves ready again to be able to take calls. And then agent connect timeout in seconds, 20. So in queues, your staff members currently can only make use of VoIP phones. So 20 seconds is typically plenty of time. And then you would click on Save Changes. Now, after you've created a queue, if you click on Members, this is the list of people that can be in an ACD queue. If I click on Manage Members, the list on the left, these are staff members that cannot yet be in a queue, right? So I was saying, hey, you guys aren't queue people, right? That's not your job responsibility. Everyone here on the right can be in a queue. If I click on their name and then click Add as a member, now I'm saying Duke here is being moved into a queue so he can make and receive calls, or receive calls from the queues. Of course, I have to assign him to that first. So once you have everyone moved over into your call center members, you would then go back to the queues, right? The little queue icon here. You click on the queue in question. And then you click on agents. And then you can click and drag the people you want to be in that queue and click on Save Changes. And for managers, your managers have to already be an agent in the queue. But then you can click and drag someone over and then click on Save Changes to make an agent a manager in that queue. For your staff members, right? They can log into their dash web UI. They would click on ACD queues to get to this page. They would then click on begin session. That logs them in. Now the feature code for that is *20 on their VoIP phones, right? And then when they're ready to take calls, they mark themselves as ready. On the VoIP phone, they would hit *21 and then click send on the VoIP phone. And so now you see I'm green, I'm ready to take a call, right? Whereas Jay here is marked away. Mike is also marked as ready. If I go on lunch, I can just mark myself away. So now I am red. And then at the end of my day, I just click end session, so I'm no longer in the queue. Now as a manager, I can log an agent out of a queue if I need to. On ACD Queues Pro, you have a third icon here for performance, so you can compare multiple agents in terms of, calls handled, etc. Also on Pro Queues, managers can listen in, right? They can eavesdrop on a call with that a staff member is having. They can whisper to their staff members, right? So give them pointers, and your customer would not hear that, or they can barge in, basically take over a call. All right, blacklists. Blacklists is a included feature. Basically, what this is you create a list of phone numbers that you're blocking from reaching your account. Right, so you click Edit Blacklists, and you would click Add to create your first list. Otherwise, you would click on an existing list. Right, you would give it a name, and then the first option is do you block anonymous, right? So that means if we get invalid inbound caller ID, the system will just block the call, meaning that inbound call will get busy tone. Otherwise, you click on Add Number, you put +1 area code and phone number, and then you would click Add and keep adding phone numbers until you're done. And then you would click on Save. Then you go back to Settings, and then you make sure your list is over here under Selected, right? So you might have to click and drag it over like that, and then you would click Update. So now, any phone number on these three lists, if they try to call any of my phone numbers on my account, they get a busy tone, right? So they're not connecting, whether that's because it's a robodialer that keeps hitting your system, or it's a little kid who's like making prank calls because they're bored, what have you. Right. Dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature. What this does is allows you to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users in a couple different ways. So the first way is via a feature code. I'm going to click Edit here. So for any rule, you just give it a name, and then you choose a phone number on your account. And then in this case, I'm saying hit create *71. So that's the feature code. I click Save Changes. So now any of my VoIP phone users, they can hit *71 and then dial a phone number, right, to make an outbound call. And this is the phone number that will show up on the outbound caller ID instead of, say, my main company number. The other way you can do it is like this one up here at the top, where I'm saying, hey, whenever you're dialing the 408 area code, this instead is the phone number that shows up as the outbound caller ID. Now, as I mentioned, this is a plan-specific feature, so if this is something you're interested in and you don't have dynamic caller ID as a menu option here, then you need to talk to our account services team. They can verify if it's something that should be on your plan or if you need to change plans. All right. The faxes, this is the fax monitor. Basically, this is available on all accounts. You can go to any fax box on the account and see their fax history for inbound and outbound. All right, you can also view the email to fax logs. If there's anything here on the far right, there'll be a little eyeball icon. You can click on that, and that will give you further details about what happened with that outbound fax. Typical things we see here like invalid attachment, or sometimes you have like the person was not found because they use their personal email address versus the company email address. The monitor is a plan specific feature. This allows you to see your status of your staff members, right? So this is a test account, so everyone's available, right? I can see what devices are being used or that are available, right? I can see who's busy, who's available. Over here, you can see the active calls that are on the account, as well as see the parked calls and the parking spot number. The number manager takes you back to your numbers page, specifically the spare numbers. And you have the option to buy, port, or there. The recording manager, this takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com, so you can see your call recordings and download them or delete them. Bear in mind your account has a included storage amount. I believe it starts at 250 gigs, I think, or 250 megs. I haven't looked at it recently, I apologize. You can verify your storage amount with our account services team. Reports, this takes you to advanced reporting. This is a plan specific feature. This allows you to create your own reports based off of call log data, right? It has its own login, own site, but basically you create your own reports and it gives you better detail about what happened with a particular call. Voicemails, this is the voicemail manager, and this is on every account. You can go to any voicemail box on the account and see the messages they have, their new ones, their listened ones. And so you can select all the new ones if you wanted to, for example. All right, but you can see the date and the time the call came in, the phone number it came from, phone number they dialed, the duration. You can listen to it, you can download it. You get some technical details. And then, right, you can mark it as new, listened. Right. And then I can change that back. Likewise, I can mark things for deletion, etc. Also, you can forward it to, let's say someone got to your voicemail box by mistake, you can forward it to the correct person. And then webhooks, this makes use of other software or link dash to other software. This is based on plans. If you know you don't have webhooks, then you would want to talk to our sales team. They have additional information. You can also see samples of what we have done with webhooks if you go to developer.virtualpbx.com. Making use of webhooks in Zapier does require some programming skill or knowledge, so that's something to be aware of. And then the user portal. So every user on your account has their own user portal, right? So as an admin, you cannot get to someone else's user portal. But because of some of the other features, you can get to all that information if you need to, right? But again, they can see their own voicemail box. Now, the only reason voicemails are showing up here is because on this user, I disabled delete after notification. So I can listen to them if I want to or view them here as needed, right? But you still have those same options where as a user, I can mark it as new, listened, or deleted. Call history. You can show your inbound and outbound call history. You can change the date range. Right, you can see your fax box. Again, this is a broken fax box on this account. The contact list, this shows everything within your Dash account. Right, so a standard user, they can't add anything to your Dash account, but you can see like your users' extension numbers, the groups, etc. So like your sales staff wouldn't be able to add their client list here, right? This is just within your Dash account. The conference tab, we're going to start over here on the right. So this is where your users would update their moderator PIN number and their participant PIN numbers. And then they have the options here. When people join, are they muted or are they deafened? And are you entering exit tones? Once you're in a conference, you can add or invite other Dash users to a conference. You can lock a conference so other people cannot randomly join. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can hang up or end the conference. And when you're actually in a conference, you have the option to mute a specific person as well as kick a specific person. Last up is settings and devices. So this is where your users would set up their own call forwarding. They just put the check mark here, put +1 area code and phone number, and then they can want their VoIP phone number also be wrong, keep the caller ID, send voicemail, email, etc., and see the current status of their devices. And that is everything. So let's go back to the dashboard. I'll hang out for a minute here in case there's any questions in chat. And we'll go from there. All right, not seeing any questions coming through, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you for your time today, and we'll be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific.